As many of you have borne witness to over the past few months, I've become quite a devoted infinitor. So much so that it's developed, at least in my list of playlist favorites, into a bit of an addiction. But I consider it a healthy one, especially for a group as talented as they are. And I will speak, in credit of the entire group. Every artist there is extremely, it's a pleasure to listen to their work. But the entrance point for me, as I've said many times, was Melissa Bonney, who is an extremely gifted vocalist. And it wasn't just, ad infinitum that introduced me to that. In fact, the first introduction, as many of you are aware, was Mortemia's collaboration of her through Devastation Bound. Remarkable track. I would listen to it if you haven't. It's so good, and it's an easy repeat listen. Favorite of mine along with symphonic metal lines. But Melissa Bonney, like I said, immediate favorite. And broadly speaking as well, ad infinitum. And I'm so in a mood right now for hear more of their music. We got their new album coming out on Friday. I cannot wait to hear it. In fact, consulting the remainder of it on this channel, I've consulted the first 4 works that have released as singles presently. I cannot wait for Chapter 3 in full. So I'm in a Melissa Bonney mood, I feel, quite a bit, that I considered the exhaustive list of artists I wanted to consult, and I'm pretty sure I'm in a mood right now that this fits. It's a great time to check out The Dark Side of the Moon, which has been a frequent recommendation from many of you ever since I first published my coverage to Ad Infinitum. This name has come in. I'm really interested to hear the overlap here, not just with familiarity in Melissa Bonney, but the other contributing members, because there's some points of interest in regards to how all these bands and other recommendations from many of you as well. This is the convergence point. It's really fascinating. And I'm going to be getting to all these groups eventually at some point, even if I haven't publicly gotten to them. Of course, Ad Infinitum with Melissa Bonney's affiliation, yes. Amaranth as well. They are on the list, even though I will also acknowledge, though I haven't gone through some of the newer songs, the selection I've picked out of what I'm going to cover from them, I have heard their work before. Years ago, unbeknownst to me. I'll explain that more when we get to Amaranth eventually. So there is a familiarity, at least from what I've heard, to Morten Lo Sorensen's percussion talents, and I believe he's as well the real-life partner of Melissa Bonney, which is pretty cool, I'm sure, for this opportunity for them. I mean, you get singer and drummer in real life get to work together. That's a great experience, I would imagine. But again, point of overlap. We have Ad Infinitum, Amaranth, and Feuerschwangs coming in through the other remaining members, being Hans Platz on the guitars, and I love the top hat, by the way. It's an interesting chic. I mean, that band particularly, if you haven't listened to Feuerschwangs, I've covered 2 of their pieces thus far. The videos are not yet published. I'm getting around to editing them. They're such a good group. I've got a pretty wide selection of tracks from them as well that I'm going to be consulting. I cannot wait to hear more. And it's not the only Feuerschwangs talent, as I said. That's also including Jenny Deal on harp. And I believe I read that she works them in some of their live performances in a dancing capacity and under, yes, the name Mayu Mieze? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. I can't say I've personally, though I'm a big metalhead, I cannot say I've exposed myself to much harp music in that scene, let alone generally. I know the harp, is a famed instrument. I can't wait to hear its involvement here. I mean, it gives it a bit of a point of originality. But I'm so excited to hear more from this group. Again, like I said, this convergence point of all these big name talents that many of you have been recommending for quite a while, and I'm getting around to it at some point. With Amaranth, I will definitely. With Feuerschwangs, I've started the journey, and I'm excited to go down it more. And Ad Infinitum, it's been such a treat thus far. But The Dark Side of the Moon, I'm sure, will be a wonderful extension. And we're going to get some interesting tracks to listen to. One original track, I believe, on the sort of concluding our journey thus far. Not in full. I've got intention to maybe carry it forward as well. There's a couple tracks I'm thinking of specifically I'd like to recognize when the album releases, I believe in May. But the first couple tracks are covers. And the starting one is let me get the track name right here. Jenny of OLDSTONES from Game of Thrones, which I will fully confess I've not seen a single episode. I know it's very much a famed show. I'm not a big nudity guy, so I'm kind of like, okay, I tend to be a cleaner viewer, but I'm well aware of how popular it is. I know the House of the Dragon show is apparently doing very well right now as we speak, and I think it just got a season 2. Game of Thrones got 8 seasons. I know the latest one was not to everybody's liking, at least from what I've heard generally. But it's a famed show, especially on the fantasy lines. And Jenny of OLDSTONES, in fact, I did hear a good selection of it from a previous coverage, in fact, going into covering this track, so I have some familiarity, not in full, but some familiarity, a taste for it, and its original iteration from a previous listen. So it gives me an idea of where this track could go, but I'm really curious to hear the adaptation here, especially to expose myself to a new talent that, again, like I said, many have been recommending, and I do fulfill my promises, and broadening out the range of new artists I cover on this channel. I love being able to spotlight a good range of talent, whether they are maybe in the more familiarized and recognizable space or emerging. And there's a place for either of those, especially for maybe those of you like yourself who are maybe going artist shop and you don't know where to look. I understand I take a bit of a global perspective at this point. I'm just so intoxicated with the European scene, so many of these names I'd be a bit unfamiliarized, apart from maybe domestic mainstays in America. But there's some real talent in Europe that I hope you're going to really like them as much as I am sure I will. Because, again, I know at least 3 of these artists going in. Oh, 4, actually, technically, because I have, again, seen some of the work of Jenny Deal through Feuerschwangs. Let's get an introduction to The Dark Side of the Moon together. I'm going to go ahead and cue this up and broaden out the respect that I give music on this channel. Again, like I've said, it's been a long-time aspiration of mine to bring music into a grander focus and context to the other artistic ventures of what I cover more routinely. And I'm excited to hear this piece and to feature in part with 2 of the members, but The Dark Side of the Moon. Let's get a taste for their talents through the music video in accordance with the song, which I will cue up. And if you're not familiarized with the way I format my coverage on this channel, I do try and accommodate listener taste to the best of my ability. So if you like to read along with the message of the piece, or the message, but the original lyrics from the show, I will have them available for you in the video feed and navigate, with the song in accordance. All right, here we go. Jenny of OLDSTONES. Trying to get, I guess, a bit of a European fantastical luster around. That just kind of came out. Here we go. Oh, and speaking in regards to Napalm Records, I got a whole list of talent. Feuerschwangs, Ad Infinitum. I would believe Amaranth too. I don't know for sure. I'm sure more going forward too. That's beautiful. I'm sure there's an even deeper connection point. I like the mix here. For those of you who watch the show and you've heard this, I'm sure there's a deep connection. Oh, I like the mix here. Great mixing. I'm a big symphonic metal guy, so I love this little strings background we're getting. It's just amazing to me. This does take more of an originalist identity. We got the screaming in there. Oh. Just let it sink in. I love this head dance we're getting to. If I had hair. I love it. Oh wow, that swift switch, she's totally fine. Man, it's seamless. Wonderful translation. So you got a minute left. Keep going with it. A little under a minute, actually. Okay. Map like the original song, we got that closing verse. It's beautiful. Great mix. Oh, nice. Nice outro element there. Beautiful. Just a light little note brick. It's wonderful. Even as somebody who's never watched any of Game of Thrones, I did try and do at least a semblance of homework to get a good familiarity. Wow. That's covers have quite a range of where they can go in their envisioning patterns. And that is definitely an individualized characterization. And I say that in respect. That was beautiful. I'm a big aggressive metal guy. So, but like headbanging type stuff, those head spins, I'm like, I'm feeling it, girls. This is great. Man, I just didn't expect that twist. It was just beautiful. Just, again, like I said, this is a piece you just have to sit there and you're like, soak it in, just essentially just shut up and let it move you. Right? That's kind of what I feel like. I could, I have a tendency to ramble, I know, but I'm just like, okay, at this point, just breathe, let it carry you. And once we got into that more emphasized rock side, the first opening and the closure were great, and it followed right along the path, like I said, of the original inspired tune. But man, oh, that middle section, the riffs, even the harp involvement. Again, like I said, this has been a fresh introduction to harp music in part, especially mixed with metal. My word, that was so good. I'm still like, state of shock. And the screaming, as I've said many times, I got a special place in my heart for plenty of male screamers in the metal scene, but female screamers, and Melissa Bonney. Woo! Beautiful. Wonderful to listen to. And I've never heard, I've got an introduction from that through Ad Infinitum. Not in that much dominance, though. It kind of swings in you on occasion, right? There is some screaming involvement, but it's more so on the melodic side, which is fine. I'm okay with hybrid mechanism. I'm not necessarily saying I favor one or the other, but this is like, okay, more sustaining of that personality in this song. I'm like, you know what? I'll take it. There's just such a weird deviation of expectation from, again, just that little sampling I heard of the original. I did pace it around to get a good selection for each part, so I, again, have the familiarized pattern of the structure in my head. I just did not expect that full-on metal thrash. It was so great. I loved it. Nice twist of expectations. I'd be very curious to hear, perhaps, because, I could see some people being like, and I get this, in some capacities when I think of cinema, because I consult, visual entertainment on a pretty regular basis, in accordance to music coverage as well. I understand the perspective, like, there's the purist thought. So I wonder for anybody who's like devoted to the Game of Thrones saga, like, how do you feel about the Rock's personality to it? For somebody like me, I'm just, like, maybe it helps I have not seen the show, but either way, I'd give it a chance. I think many will, but I do think perhaps there will be an argument that maybe comes up about, like, well, to keep it pure to the original piece. I'm like, I allow the deviation. Just hearing this was excellent. I loved it. One of my favorite covers, I think, that spotlight on this channel. Man, it did not fit my expectations. I am so curious now to hear where, what are the other two? I think one of them is a Harry Potter cover, and the other is, I believe, Lord of the Rings. Where are those gonna go? Man, that's crazy to me. I've heard the Lord of the Rings one, the original piece, not the cover. We're gonna get to that in the next video, but man, that was good. Like I said, I'm still processing that. Wow. I gotta watch that again. That was a wonderful experience. I hope you had the same feeling that I did too. I'm just perfect personality to that one. Wow, that middle section is just so good. Rich. Just everything about that just worked for me. The screams, the riff structure, the harp, the head banging. It set up a great visual for me. Man, I loved it. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below if you wish to disclose your perspective, whether you're a long-time listener, which I'm sure now many are like, yes, here's another example of promises kept. I told you. Did I say for sure I consult this one? I don't think I have yet. I think it'd probably be a reasonable expectation. Like, if I love, Ad Infinitum, I would, of course, catch up on this group, and I've given you that. I've been meaning to for a while. Ever since that first recommendation of name came in, I'm so happy with what I just heard here. I love it. I'd love to hear, like I said, from those of you who are maybe longtime fans of the Dark Side of the Moon, at least for now, and as they're establishing themselves in their first album release, and for those of you this is the first introduction, what were your thoughts on that? And again, like I said, those of you who are familiar with the original Game of Thrones tune, you've watched the show, how do you feel? I'm like, I love it. I think it's great. Journey of OLDSTONES. Wow. I mean, again, like I said, deviation from what I thought. And I like it. I like subversion of expectations done well. And that absolutely was. I love the experience. Can't wait to hear more from the Dark Side of the Moon. And more is incoming. At least 3 more tracks presently. And into the future, there are probably more to add in as well. But for now, I'm loving my introduction to this group. Wonderful dynamic piece. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.